The imposition engine in pdfToolbox is especially powerful, and if you use the JavaScript imposition configurations, it is even easier to work with. However, one thing that you need to know is what objects exist, what functions can you use to tell pdfToolbox what kind of imposition you want. And of course, you can read the documentation about imposition. There's a whole chapter about it, and we'll link to it under this video. But who likes to read documentation? So what I prefer to do is I prefer using something that was introduced in pdfToolbox 16, and that is called imposition snippets. Let me show you. What I'm going to do is create a new imposition configuration, and I want to make sure that it is a JavaScript imposition. And then now is the time that normally I would have to go to the documentation and figure out that there is an impose object, and I have to instantiate one of those, and then I have functions on it that I can use, and so on and so on. So let's not do that. Instead, let's go to the information button on the right, and then I have, let me zoom in a little bit, I have this insert imposition objects option, and that is really, really helpful. So when I select that option, I get a dialog box that shows me all of the imposition objects that are defined and all of the functions, utility functions or convenience functions that are defined for the impose object. And I can now ask pdfToolbox to insert these snippets for me. So I want to make a new impose object, and I want maybe to use some defaults. So I will select this one, and then at the bottom there is an insert button. And what it gives me in the imposition configuration is some JavaScript and then some comments in there that explain what this code is doing. You will not be able to write an imposition configuration simply by inserting snippet after snippet. You will need to do some modifications, but usually that is also indicated in the comments that you find in that snippet. For example, here it creates a new impose object for me, so that is great. It has set the most sensible or most used property in that default object, which is the unit that you want to use. I'm in Europe, so I want to use millimeter. But then it says fill imposition configuration as needed to be completed. And so, of course, I would remove this. And now I have to do something with this impose object. What do I need to do? Well, I can now return to my imposition snippets and look at the things that are available. And there it would tell you that, for example, there is an add sheet def or sheet definition function, and that takes a width and a height and a unit. I already have the default unit defined, so I can just take the one above and just double click, also inserts it, and that puts that function where I had my cursor in my script. Why did I say you will not be able to just use these snippets and build something that works? Well, this is a good example, and I'm not going to use this to create a whole working imposition configuration in this video, but I do want to show you that you will need to do some modification, because here it says imposition.addSheetDef. That is going to work. Imposition is the name of this impose object we created, but the sheet width and sheet height variables, those are not defined, and now I will need to define those. I can now do two things. I could change, for example, sheet width by 297 if I'm creating a landscape A4 imposed sheet. Or I can define them, and I could do something like const sheet width equals, and then we said A4 landscape, so that would be this, and then sheet height would be 210 in millimeter. And now my imposition configuration would work. It's not going to do anything at this point because we only create a sheet definition, not a sheet. But you get where I want to go here. Now I can say, okay, so I have a sheet definition. Let me position the cursor at the next step. I go back to impose snippets, look for something a function that will create a sheet from this sheet definition, and I can continue inserting objects into my imposition configuration until I have exactly what I want. So as an alternative to reading through the whole documentation chapter, and I would still advise you to do that because there is a lot of information in there that you wouldn't have in these snippets, but as an alternative, use imposition snippets to get going with the imposition engine.